I forgot to hit the record button earlier. My apologies. So those of you that will be joining in, you missed 10 minutes of me talking. My apologies for that. We'll be watching this later.
Technical difficulty.
That's right.
Okay, so we go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just that this information is being provided to the Akwesasne community. And the information may contain some material and is without prejudice to any current Mohawk land rights. So, the Akwesasne Dundee settlement official results were accepted in January 2020 and was later approved by Parliament. The money was placed in account temporarily while the search for investment and custodial managers was ongoing, and also due to the pandemic later on, and was placed in a secure 2-year short-term investment. CIBC was chosen as the account custodian and investment manager in the winter of 2021. They will manage the day-to-day functions of the account and monitor any changes to investments regarding like economy changes. Last month, February 2022, legal advisor Alyssa Flaherty-Spence from Galvin WLG and investment advisor Tomas Ganesh from Shortius presented to council on next steps for deciding on financial structure and long-term investments. The two financial structure options presented were a limited liability partnership and a trust, and also presented was the benefits and risks of each financial structure. So next steps, council will decide which legal structure to choose, and they will manage the funds along with the CIBC. Community consultations will take place in the coming months to collect feedback regarding investment opportunities and what community projects should be prioritized. And that's everything. Any questions? Don't hesitate to use the microphone.
Are there any questions from the floor? Are there any questions from anybody on the Zoom? I see you have your hand up, Cheryl, so we'll go to you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my first question on the presentation was after she said the LLP and a trust, I couldn't make out what she said, if she said a third thing.
The benefits of each financial structure. So the benefits of LLP and the benefits of a trust, and then the risks of using each one as a financial structure for the compensation money.
Okay, got that. Okay, so my question is, being as it's sitting in a short-term 2-year, how much interest has it accrued to date?
That I'm not sure. You would have to ask the custodial manager of the account for a annual report. I don't remember how much it made, but I know it's not very much.
Okay, so my question would be then be moved over to council. Asking council if they can possibly update us at the next meeting to how much it has accrued thus far. And there's a reason why I'm asking to know the amount, and it has a lot to do with roads. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. We will slate that for follow-up, and we'll get those numbers for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from anybody online? Are there any final questions from the floor on this presentation? Okay. You want to are you presenting on the New York?
No.
Okay. All right. So Chief Edward will now give an update on the New York claim.
Okay, so this general briefing note on the current news that was brought out on the south side regarding this area of Mohawk Drive. On March 14th, 2022, U.S. District Court Judge Khan ruled that the boundary of Akwesasne determined in the 1796 New York Treaty is not changed by the state's illegal purchase of Akwesasne land. This also affects the Messina Mile Square, the Fort Covington Mile Square, and adjacent town and the Grass River Meadows. The 1796 treaty between the 7 nations of Canada and New York State established the boundary of Akwesasne with land reserved specifically for tribal members. The purchases of these lands by New York State violated the Non-Intercourse Act of 1790, which limited the purchase of tribal land, and only legislation ratified by Congress could change a reservation boundary. The original claim was filed in U.S. federal court in 1982 by the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne and the St. Louis Mohawk Tribe, and the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs filed together in 1989. The court enjoined the parties in 1992. The MCA, MNCC, and the SRNP are now litigants in a land claim filed in the United States Federal Court against the state of New York and the New York Power Authority for lands, islands, and resources originally belonged to the Mohawks of Akwesasne. The next steps of the claim will be determined at a later date, as the legal counsel for the three parties are still assessing the ruling and its impact on lands not under tribal title. So this is just a general briefing because the case is still ongoing, as I read in the last paragraph. But as things start progressing more, we'll get more information as things move forward. So that's all I can get at this time. Are there any questions? Any questions online?
Yes, I have one, but I couldn't get my hand up. Can you still hear me?
Let's go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to figure out how to hit that button to put my hand up.
Very good.
So Edward, that being said, I think you mentioned something about the lawyers are all chit chatting or whatever. What legal strategy is MCA looking at on the impact of this decision? Not as far as with the lawyers, but what are you looking at once you, I guess, wrap your brain around this whole thing, so to speak? Are you starting a legal strategy behind closed doors type stuff?
Yes, that's been going on, but it's, again, right now, because this is only one announcement that represents the tribe and what their claim is, and going forward at this point, I really cannot divulge any much more than that on council, because it's not really official on the strategic direction we're going in, so it's still under discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, Edward.
No. Any more questions? If not, that concludes my briefing note on this issue. And as new information moves forward, we will definitely keep community updated as things progress.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll now go to the next update and presentation, which is on behalf of the Health Department of Health. I will turn it over to Chief Dwayne and Chief Vanessa to walk us through this.
So, an introduction.
Testing, okay. We extend our gratitude to all healthcare workers, first responders, leadership, and community for all of their support during this time. So moving forward, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a long and challenging road, but it is not over and our work continues. To protect our elders, youth, and immunocompromised community members, please err on the side of caution. Easement of COVID-19 restrictions. Testing. Community health will soon have accessible a rapid molecular diagnostic test utilizing nucleic acid amplification technology, NAAT, which will speed up testing for those individuals who are symptomatic and are recommended to be tested by a community health nurse. Active screening. Healthcare and education. Active screening means that the employer must collect and review information to actively determine whether a person may enter a workplace. Temperatures will be taken upon entry. Passive screening. All other MCA facilities. Passive screening occurs when employees assess their own risk factors and decide for themselves whether they may enter the workplace or not. This is completed through signage. Temperature is not required. Mask wearing, mandatory in all settings. MCA buildings, recreation centers, local schools. 8 reasons for wearing a mask. To keep myself well, to keep my friends and neighbors safe. Symbols of compassion, to keep my family safe. For healthcare workers and first responders. To embrace the new normal, to keep our elders safe, and to keep our children safe.
Okay, so supporting those who choose to wear a mask, choosing to mask outside of your work environment, work requirement is a personal decision to make because it is not only the risks and benefits for the individual, it is a consideration of the risks and benefits of those around you, especially those with compromised immunity. We also need to keep in mind that these mask mandatory settings, according to Ontario, change almost daily. Easement of COVID-19 restrictions, reporting, no longer require reporting when active cases. Vaccination clinics each Wednesday by appointment. Please call community health at 613-575-2341, extension 3220 to book. Isolation times as directed by Public Health Authority, Eastern Ontario Health Unit, Franklin County Community Health, and easement of COVID-19 restrictions. So there are no travel restrictions in place right now. COVID-19 testing is unavailable for travel purposes. Visitation at long-term care, masks will continue to be required at all times when visiting long-term care facilities, up to 4 visitors per resident at a time. Visitors are expected to follow the individual homes vaccinated individuals, MCR 165. So continue on with the easement of COVID restrictions, access, recreation centers, Onerahto Arena and all MCA buildings have no capacity limits. No event plans are no longer required for the recreation centers and are encouraged to maintain the recommended distancing between tables and passive screening. Just a reminder that support is available through holistic health and wellness, the mental health and wellness, 613-575-2341, extension 3115, traditional medicine, extension 3100, the Cornwall Community Hospital Child and Youth Mental Health Services, that is 613-361-6363, or toll free at 844-361-6363. The community and quarantine program is also in effect, and that is 613-936-1548, extension 1300 during regular business hours, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or for after hours, please call 1-800-480-4208. And that is also on weekends. That is the Akwesasne Family Wellness Program. and you can call there at 613-937-4322 or the EOC at 613-575-5005 or 613-575-2331. They always give me the slides with all the numbers on there. Let's keep our elders safe. Continue with hand washing, distancing, proper ventilation, masks, testing, rapid tests, and PCR tests. Staying home when sick, vaccination, isolation, and limiting our contacts. If you are sick, please stay home. And Yamagoa for your dedication to health and safety in Akwesasne to protect our future. These recommendations are for the protection of all staff and community and will be reassessed again on April 4th. Yamagoa.
Thank you. Thank you for that. My apologies for those of you online. I know this is our first online hybrid in-person general meeting, so we are doing our best to work through the kinks to make sure that you can see as well as hear the dialogue in what we are presenting. So are there any questions in relation to that? I see a hand here, so we'll go to you, Donna.
Is there anything in place right now to, is there anything in place right now for hiring of new staff for the medical field, for like the nursing homes, for home support, for all our medical staff? Because I hear all the time for the past year, and I know COVID has a lot to do with it, but they are all short-staffed, and there's a lot of services. I know she mentioned a lot of services, but they're just not available to the community. Not right now, they're not. There's community members that have gone through major operations, and there's no staff to assist in their home care, and I don't think our community should be going to Cornwall to get services. We have those services here, and I just would like to see whether it's on the health portfolio to look into this very seriously, because we need more staff.
Thank you. So just in summary, I know that we're trying to manage the online. The question is about what's the status of getting more staff within the health department or within services being provided to the community. There's long wait times or some services not available. So I will go to health portfolio for a response, please.
So okay, so in the past, dealing with this COVID pandemic, we have various call outs that go out to community, outside of community to attract and retain additional staff members. We've also looked into accelerated programs as far as education, speeding up the healthcare aid certification, speeding up different types of programs to help our community members if they do want to get into that health field. And we've also put a big concentration on mental health of our caregivers as well, because this has been a very draining time, not only on our caregivers, but also on like our residents of long-term care, our elders at our home. So it's like a full circle. We really have to look after not only those that need the care, but those providing the care as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. It is noted. I mean, it is, as Chief Enniska has said, is something that we're grappling with, and it's very difficult to attract people, especially in healthcare right now, whether it be in First Nation or non-First Nation. But if there are specific areas that you'd like to talk about specifically, please reach out to one of the members of council, and they will follow up with administration on that. Thank you. Mr. Johnson, you had a question?
Yeah. Do you actually believe what you're reading when it comes to this? Like I'm asking Dwayne, I mean, you can barely read it, but do you believe what you read?
Absolutely.
Why? It's 2 years, we've been doing this 3 years. Who are we really saving when I have 3 needles stuck in my ass? I had to get strip search coming in this building. What was it for?
To protect everybody else.
Protect who? Because you got 3 needles in your ass.
I do,
Okay, and you got a mask on.
I do.
Okay, so tell me this. What does Mohawk Council, what information does Mohawk Council have that Doug Ford doesn't have? Because he said, no more, it's done, take it off, live your life.
And
When is Mohawk Council gonna do this?
it is coming.
It's
It is
coming, why? Like, when this
Doug
first
Ford
started,
didn't make
remember?
the decision. Doug Ford listened to his medical professional.
Okay, are we listening to the same ones?
Well, we're listening to Mohawk Council medical.
No, we're
professional.
not. No, we're not. Because when this first started, April would go on the TV and say, we're listening to our medical professionals. So who are they? Where are they? Where are they?
Andrew
Because
Montfort,
for the first
Director of
year,
Health.
April was the one that was the face of COVID information. Even our Director of Health never got on the thing to present. So I'm looking to April because he's the resident nurse. Tell me, why are we still going through this?
Well, because for one, we listen to as Dwayne has mentioned, our health department. Pardon me?
Who are they? Name them.
Through our nurses, through our health
No, I want
administrators.
names.
No, we don't need.
Somebody out there is making a decision that affects my life. I want to know who they are.
The one challenge that we have is that, as you know, we're in 2 different jurisdictions. And we have seen that the approach in New York, the approach in Ontario, and the approach in Quebec,
Okay,
at the best of times have been very different, right? As a First Nation community, our population is very vulnerable. We have an aged population and a very sick population. So the approach that we have taken is a conservative approach to make sure that as the masks come off, as the restrictions are lifted in other areas around us, that it's not going to end up in yet another 5th or 6th or 7th wave that we're in.
How many new cases this week?
I don't have the immediate
How
information
many new
offhand.
cases Monday? How many new cases Tuesday?
So we're
Guess
taking a phased approach to be cautious.
No, you're not. You're putting the foot on the throats of Akwesasne people. And you know this.
Which
And it's time
which
for you to actually stand up and lead and say, you know what? I don't take direction from Ontario, from Canada, from New York State. We're independent, we're Akwesasne.
And we're also a very sick
No,
population.
we're not.
Yes, we are, absolutely.
No.
You could speak to any one of the professionals in the health department, and we have a very sick population. We have a lot of people with cancer. We have a lot of people with diabetes, which then puts them in a vulnerable area. Pardon me?
So you can't, the numbers are not coming out saying that we're sick. Guess what? Because I see a lot of zeros. So where's those sick people? There's zero, COVID, zero. So
Well,
you tell me.
which restrictions are you referring to?
I have to show her
Yeah.
my shot vaccine card when I came in here. I'm supposed to have a mask on. I'm not wearing a mask. Okay, but I don't understand who you're protecting because I think she's vaccinated. My mother's vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. Veronica's vaccinated. Guess what? We're safe. You're vaccinated, but half the council's not even here. Where are they? All our meetings? I don't get it. I don't get it because, okay, I can understand day one when 2000, March 13th, when everything closed. I can understand those kind of rules in place on that day. But 2 years later, for you to be still singing the same song, it's not cutting the mustard. Because you're hiding under it now. You're hiding under that veil of COVID.
But I'm not sure what you're being denied by having that. You are in here, which you've met the rules to come in. There's not any services that you can't access at this time. In fact, the question before you talked about how there are health professionals that aren't there anymore. And one of the reasons is because of the pandemic. So we are trying to be cautious so that we don't overwhelm the system.
This building is not right.
It's been,
That's it, that's the mandates.
Yeah.
Have you seen the TVs? People have revolted against the mandates, and here, Mohawk Council is the last entity on the face of Canada that is clinging to the mandates. For what? That's what I want to know.
we're being cautious.
We're being cautious.
It's
For
not-
when? For the rest of our lives?
It's been 2 weeks at this point, and we're targeting the end of April.
No,
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
wow, it's ridiculous.
I acknowledge that you're not happy with it. Thank you. Are there any other questions that you have in relation to the COVID-19 update? All right, thank you very much to you. There are a lot of concerns about the ongoing or the non-existence of restrictions. And I can tell you that we continue to work closely with our health department, the experts in this, the epidemiologists that understand this stuff, to make sure we are doing the best that we can to keep our community, our organization healthy and safe. There's a lot of people that work in the MCA that deliver a lot of services. With a lot of sick people in the MCA means no services to you, which is not a good thing. So we're doing the best that we can. I know this is very sensitive in many aspects, from social to economic to political, because I know that, you know, there's a lot going on around us, but there's also going, you know, we don't want to jeopardize our community and our safety for our vulnerable people. But we are very conscious of people's views and opinions. So thank you. So that is it for our presentations. We'll now go to business from the floor. So if there are any members who wish to ask questions, make presentation, please let me know. I do see a hand here on the Zoom, so go ahead and unmute yourself. Cheryl?
Thank you. Okay, so they did a presentation and it spoke to the Dundee monies. So we're in desperate need of our roads. I don't know when money's going to be coming in from any governments to address our road issue, but I did a very quick, and I'm not the greatest mathematician in the world, but I do know that my calculation of 239 million, if it was in a 5% interest in 1 year, it would grow $1.195 million. So it's in a short-term 2-year interest account right now. If even 1 year of that interest has accrued at 1.195, if it is sitting in something at 5%, even if it was just 3%, could we not take all the interest accrued from the total amount and put it into an emergency fund towards addressing some of our roads? I've been at it for over 4 years, probably going into my 5th year now, for Gadali Street in the village of Ganadago. And it's just deteriorating even worse and worse. Now it's spreading even further and further around towards the church side of the road. Then I also drove down in front of the old Bill LaFrance and Jerry King's residence, where the old building was that they tore down. And right in that area, now that road is crumbling also. So the roads in the village are starting to fall apart just as bad as every other road in the other 2 districts. And when we talk about roads, my number one concern in Gowinoga is I do know and understand some of the mandates or the requirements to turn a private road into a public road. However, on the west end of the island, where we do know a lot of it is privately owned, there has to be something we can look at to be put in place for emergency vehicles to travel down more privately owned roads, where we could at least get them graded to the degree that if an emergency vehicle is needed down there, it doesn't tear up the emergency vehicles and cause damage to them, or it wears them out a lot quicker. So roads right now is my number one concern, and my suggestion to looking into the amount of interest. I'm hoping you could contemplate bringing something back to the community and asking the community, here's how much interest was accrued. Do you agree that we should possibly use it towards maybe an emergency fund towards roads? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members with response? Here, take the mic. Here, just use that.
Yeah, sure.
Push it up.
No, Cheryl, for your inquiries.
It's not working. There we go.
Cheryl, Cheryl, you know the Wasili Wanoon. The roads has been putting together a strategy for over a couple of years now, and we've been meeting with the multi-jurisdictional table that's put in place to handle some of these issues. I understand that we can't get there fast enough to where the roads are deteriorating, but there always has to be different studies have to be done, and like what was stated in the follow-up action items, where they're monitored, they're surveyed, they're reassessed, and once they get on the priority list, they'll be looked into more thoroughly. The design costs will come into play, hiring a consultant to do the design costs, and all that is one of the steps that we have to follow. But I seen that area you're talking about. Yes, it is a concern. And that's something that the portfolio will have to talk about, and that's something that council will have to allocate monies to do some quick fixes, meaning do 100-yard stretches, just so that they get more comfortable for our travelers. And we also had discussions in the past about allocating monies put aside just so that we can monitor and maintain private driveways, because it is emergency concern, it is public health concern for our individuals that have icy roadways and undesirable roadways to travel on in order for emergency vehicles to get there. That's something that I've been pushing over the years. We've had a lot of employees change around, turnarounds, and that wasn't healthy for our portfolio, because we need to get structurally sound in order to tackle some of these issues moving forward. So I'm hoping that it is pothole season. I never knew there was a pothole season. But a long time ago, we had dirt roads, a grader went down there, graded it up, everybody was happy for a month, then it started all over again. But now that everybody desires pavement, when you put pavement in, it increases speed in our communities, and there's all other things that come with it. But there's a process that has to be followed, and it's a step phase process. And I'm just hoping that we have the patience to see what we can do. And as far as the Dundee settlement and the interest money, that's got to be a kind of council-led decision on how we're going to utilize them funds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Can I just add something to that real quick? I
Go ahead.
appreciate your due diligence in trying to address it. But when we talk about these monies, the next pot of money that comes to my mind is the settlement money from the pipeline running through the rents. I mean, there's got to be over $1 million in there also, where these monies that are sitting there need to come back to the community for the communities to make decisions and say, spend it, do what we got to do to fix it. My concern is these young families that are struggling, that can barely afford 2020 vehicles, let alone 2015s, and they're struggling, and their roads, these roads are tearing up their vehicles. I see it all the time and hear about it, of the $1,200 bills on shocks and ball joints and things like that, the wear and tear these roads are doing to our vehicles. My concern is we're continuously saying we got to help the next 7 generations. Well, this impacts them right now, and we can't wait another 2 to 3 years to just hope a $5 million pot of money is handed to us by the government. We have small pots here and there sitting there as interest that we've made over the years, that hopefully, Vince, you can grab some of that as this pothole season monies to at least do some pothole covering work. Because I never forget addressing this in Ganadaga about that Gadali Road. And I said, even if you just fix the hole where the manhole cover is that dropped 6 or 8 inches, and bless his soul, Kermit took care of that, I would say within a week or so. And that made some of the residents that had to turn and use that road to head down that Gadali Road very happy. I mean, it wasn't a permanent fix, but it helped us in our vehicles not needing wheel alignments and things like that. It wasn't as much wear and tear, but right now it's getting really bad in the village too. And my last question is the track, the walking trail at the park. I continuously listen to Mr. Thompson's presentations, great initiatives, love the initiatives. Where's the 90,000 to finish our little track? I know they didn't find it, but there's grants being sought after. Once again, we have interest money sitting there. The Enbridge dollar sitting there. What's so hard about grabbing 1 year's worth of that rent and putting it towards a walking trail? You just said we have a very sick community, diabetes, cancer. well, diabetes people need to walk in a safe environment, and that would be an excellent location as a priority project to finish the walking trail at the arena. Yeah,
You know, just on your question about taking some of the Dundee interest monies, we can take that back as a follow-up as part of your other question is how much is there and what is interest? Part of the settlement itself does require us to go to the community for approval. So it wouldn't be immediately available. It'd have to go to the community for approval, but part of the process that Teresa spoke about earlier on the presentation through the investment of the Dundee is to identify priority areas, example, capital projects, which roads would fall under, which could then become an annual stream to fix those projects, right? The challenge with roads is that it's not like your personal driveway. You come in, you grade it, put rocks down and start laying asphalt. With respect to the roads that are through our community, it takes a lot of studies, engineers, soil testing to be able to design them. You know, that's probably in itself at an accelerated pace, you know, up to a year to do in itself. So, and then unfortunately, the time we're in now, it's very hard to find, you know, specialized services for certain areas. Now, not saying that roads is one of them, but it could be a challenge. I just want to put that out there. That is some of the considerations.
thank you, Abram. I appreciate that. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. All right, thank you for that. Are there any other questions, comments? Yes.
Is it on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I have a question on monthly reports. Why are monthly reports just now in this flyer that we got? Are you aware that you're supposed to do a monthly report monthly? If not, you are breaking the community law.
So, speak for myself, there's always one there. What we have done, just as matter of process, is because we haven't been in person. So when we have been online, they have been mailed out, emailed out with the links for the general meeting, the reports that are available.
Oh, sorry.
Comments? Julie, I see you have your hand up online, so I'll go to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that that's one of the issues with providing monthly reports is it doesn't, yes, it's part of a law, but it doesn't say where we have to present them to, or even that they, you know, that they have to be in Okanagan or they have to be at the general meeting. So I know for myself, if I don't get it in the Okanagan, I make sure that it's in the general meeting. And as Grand Chief said, we've been doing it by, you know, if you get on our general meeting, it's emailed out. So that's, I just wanted to mention that, yes, it's part of the law, but it's very vague, you know.
Thank you. Cheryl, did you have something you want to add on this?
No, I was trying to figure out how to lower my hand. Sorry.
No problem. Was there anything else on that? Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to address? Okay.
Most of you ran on change. What changes have been done? And what other changes should we expect?
Are there any responses that members would like to? Go ahead, Edward. I'll send this down.
Okay, for myself, one of the things from last term that carried over into this term is the Onerahto self-government agreement. I've been sitting on that portfolio and I put that in one of my high priority areas because it's really important to understand when you're at the negotiating table with Canada. Because one of the things that everyone has to understand with that is if that agreement is to pass by the community, then that is a new agreement that this community will be following and no longer under the Indian Act. So there are some sections of the Indian Act that are beneficial to this community. And those are the certain sections of those are really taking time to get Canada to see it from our perspective, because we don't want to lose some of those benefits that the community is utilizing today. So numerous drafts are always being changed. So it's requiring a lot of time to read and understand that, comprehend that. There's additional kind of Supreme Court cases that go along with that have to be understood and read. So for myself, that's one of the major things that I've been putting a lot of my time into. And in addition to that, I also sit on the Chiefs Committee on Economic Development with the Chiefs of Ontario. So that's an advocacy table that we put together strategies for the Leadership Council, which is led by the Regional Chief of Ontario. So when they go and meet with the ministers, it's those areas where legislation and policy can impact this community that we have to be prepared for and ready for. So those are two areas that kind of require a lot of my time, in addition to keeping track on the fiber to the home, on the progress where that's going. So any political support that's needed, then that's when I'll provide some input on that. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Donna?
So, helping to make changes to the Indian Act, could you kind of, could you update the community and just kind of let us know sometimes what the sections that you're trying to change and how it benefits the community?
Okay, I'll give you an example of one that it is one of the, I guess it's been a long time for both parties to kind of understand the importance of where we're coming from, and that's tax exemption, Section 87. So one of the things I learned is that other First Nation communities that have self-government agreements, some of them have it identified as a tether to the Indian Act. So one day, if the Indian Act is no longer in existence, then that section will be withdrawn from their agreement. Our stance is to untether that, have it in our agreement indefinitely with no time limit, so that it exists there as long as this community is here. So it's a real hard one for Canada to see from our perspective, and that they're the ones dragging their feet on getting a response to us. So there's a few other sections, but last month there was a presentation on Zoom. But what I could do for the next coming month is I could have another update on it, because as we have next week, we've got main table negotiations starting back up. So hopefully we get some answers. There's three other substantive matters that are part of it, but I'll provide that in the next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members who'd like to make comment? Go ahead, Dwayne.
So Esther, in terms of change, the first number of months we spent in orientation and then finishing up orientation, we had Justin Trudeau and the provincial and federal, or the federal election, not provincial, provincial's coming up. So once Justin Trudeau got elected, it took him a while to change his cabinet, and then there really was 60 days where we didn't have, so we're just starting to get, in January, we're starting to get some of those things. In terms of, I'm on health portfolio, so we do have some things coming up that we're not ready to announce yet because we have to finalize some things. So there is some change coming in health. For economic development, which I'm also It's finishing up fiber to the home, the Roger cell tower, things of that nature, and then we can pick up new initiatives and move forward with those.
Thank you. Any other members? Yeah, go ahead. Ashwin.
I thought what you were talking about when you talked about change. Why were you in the MCA orientation, which is something that has been done forever? The same orientation every council that comes on. So why were you involved in it for like 2 months? If you want change, why didn't you start right then and there?
So from my understanding, this orientation that we went through this time was one of the first times that they've had this type of orientation. Am I wrong in saying that, Abram?
It's different, yes.
So there was some changes to the orientation, and some people who are new to the organization may not be familiar with a lot of the programs within Mohawk Council. As you know, I spent 16 years as a transportation supervisor. I was familiar with a lot of the processes and whatnot, but there was still things to learn, and there was a lot of professional development that came with that training and orientation.
Okay, thank you. Any other members? Okay. All right. Is there anything else, Esther? Okay. Well, I have Julie. You're in response to that. Go ahead.
So just noticing that I'm the only one on for Onerahto tonight. I did want to mention, when we talked about change within our district, we've done a lot of things together as district chiefs in order to reach out and get more information from Onerahto. We've went door to door with the fiber to the home pamphlets to explain to community members what it is. Just knowing that, we have a lot of older people in our district, and that we needed to reach out to them and kind of explain it a little bit more. So we went door to door, each of us, picked roads and went. We also had, we have instituted Onerahto Corner in the Unkodage, which is just talks about different issues within Onerahto that we are trying to get out to our community members. We're just trying in different ways to communicate. We've also had many any issues or anything that we handle or we have to do. We make sure that our elders at Sweetgrass Manor are involved and have the, are getting that information. And it's not just Sweetgrass Manor. I know the other 2 districts are making sure that it's Yakisuta and it's, Jigunutsada as well, that we're reaching out, to our facilities as well as, the households when we go out and do different things. I think that's all I had for today.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, is your question in relation to this or something else?
No, I'm waiting for the next open question.
Okay, thank you. Go over to Mr. Johnson. This. Are there any other members want to respond to that question? Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay.
Since this is the first meeting since the election, and I want to know, in your view, the 6 of you that showed up, why is there so much need in Akwesasne when Mohawk Council is providing a lot of services, so you say? Why is there still so much need here? Why is there so much chaos here? Why is the roads falling apart? Why is the place falling apart on your watch? And how you can sit up there and say, we have to do this or we have to do that, when some of these have been chiefs for a long time. So you need to change your message, Vince, the older ones, I mean, some of us haven't even spoke tonight, but, you know, the ones I'm hearing from is a new guy, you know, you guys gotta do better. Because I'm me, Mr. Negativity, okay? I'm out in the community, I'm helping. I'm filling up people's fuel tanks, old people's fuel tanks, fixing the roof leaks. I'm screaming at my chief to fix a pothole in the road. Guess what? I had to say and basically tell her, I'm gonna rip up the whole road unless you do something, because we're running this pothole over every day. When you look at River Road now, where the pothole was that I complained about, it's perfect, it's closed, it's covered. And now the rest of the road is ripped apart. And I'm like, we're never gonna win, you know? But why did I have to resort to violence to get Beulah's husband to get out of bed? To fix the pothole. But you know what I mean? Like, why is it, I'm a community member. I don't have any power. I can't make a phone call to the roads program, who probably is suffering from all these COVID things, because nobody's working. They're not working for us because our roads are terrible. And it's, I don't know what it is. I mean, the place is not, the way you tell the story and you listen to it and everything's supposed to be, you know, everything is, we're on it, we're on it, we're on it, we're on it. You're not, because why is there so much need? Why is there so much anger? Because there is out there. I'm telling you, what we're here tonight is, it's nice. It's a nice little meeting, you know, you got your little questions, and there's people out there that are so frustrated that they've turned it off. They've turned off the channel, you know, because there's a disconnect. And, you know, I'm happy that 3 of my SNI chiefs are here. I'm proud of that. You know, COVID this, COVID that, are here. You know, you are sitting 3 feet apart from smoking sticks. You know, you're fucking the rules. I love it. But do you understand? Like, you know, I don't want to be Mr. Negativity. I love where I come from. You know, that's why every day I get up and I help somebody. That's my goal. You know, one person, if I could help them. I take money out of my pocket and I buy groceries, you know, like stuff like that every day. Why? Why do I need to do that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at you. It's a privilege to be sitting there. And all this government tape that's sitting in front of you, rip it down. You know, like, start making decisions that actually help us. You know, start filling in the potholes, fill it in 50 times. So what? You don't have to go to Quebec for money for that. You can just get a shovel and fill it in, you know? As long as that community member doesn't have to ruin their car going to work. Like, look at St. Regis Road. That road is on the American side. It's ripping up everybody that works at MCA's car. So why doesn't MCA just grab a few shovels and send you guys over the border to fix those holes, even though they're not in our territory? You know what I mean? That doesn't mean make those kind of decisions. It won't hurt us. It'll help us, you know? That's what I want from my chiefs. You know, I want from you. I want you to not worry about Justin Trudeau or Rob Ford or the guy in Cornwall. I don't even want you to worry about April. I want you, because you are district chiefs, you are representing us, the people. I want you to fix the problems. You know, I want you to kick the bucket over and say, okay, let's do this. Let's not wait 10 years. You know, let's not wait for an engineer that we have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. Stuff like that, little bit stuff, you know, help us. That's what I'm saying, help us.
Thank you. Vince, did you want to respond? Something on the road?
I got 2 shovels in my truck.
No, I just want to say, Marlon, I'm hearing you, I've heard it. The process is slow. The process is slow, I understand that. We can do some Band-Aid fixes. It's just like when you have a leaky house and they're heating it up, it's going through the roof. But, you know, so every time I stress, let's do a quick Band-Aid on something, we always got to look for that funding to do it. We always got to find it, even in-house, not going externally, even in-house. We
we gotta look at things real carefully, so we're not taking from one department to do other things. And my constant argument with the funders and the ministries is lack of, meaning we have a 75+ kilometer roadway we have to maintain, and they're probably only giving us adequate money to mend and maintain 25 kilometers. So those are the issues. That's why that multi-jurisdictional table is being put together. It's been, but COVID has since stalled that momentum. So I'm hoping as everything eases up, we can start having face-to-faces. So that way those people can start to see in the anguish on our faces that there's nothing moving. And every time we mention some things, they empathize with us, but we need that, but we needed to take it a step further. So there is challenges here at this table, especially in my field, in my portfolios, because those physical appearances of us being out there shows up a lot, and it shows a lot to the community. But again, we have to allocate that money to do this. Now, I'm hoping when consultation starts happening with this Dundee monies, that these issues that you're bringing up is thought about thoroughly, so that way those monies can be utilized to make money for us, so we can use it in that fashion, and we don't have to rely on these external departments to get that forward. So we can do it ourselves. But we gotta also be careful so that that money doesn't run out. It's always there to do the same thing year after year. So can you?
Yeah. Thank you.
But that's the thing is, you're sitting here saying we have to go back to the community and ask. Well, why don't you just do it? You know, why don't you just, the same effort you put into the Dundee land claims, getting a yes vote, you know, you went out there, you put information up, you asked the people what you wanted, and you got your yes vote. So now go out there and say, listen, okay, now we have this much money, like Cheryl was itemizing, all the bank accounts things out. So come out and ask me, because Marlon's gonna say, yes, use that money to fix the roads. Yes, use that money to fix that old lady's windows down the road. Yes, use it, you know, because that's what I'm gonna tell you. So why don't you do it? Like these are really lame duck council right now. So why don't you have a referendum? Like put it out there, because people are available to vote like this. And ask them just generally, we have this. If we need to, can we do an emergency declaration and use this money to build a road, pave a road, do this, do that? And you don't need engineers like, you've been doing this a long time. You know what you need to do to pave a road. It's not that difficult. But like I said, ask us. You want to put it out there? Put the big question out there. And do you allow us to do this? Then do it.
Thank you.
No.
Cheryl, I see you have your hand up again, so we'll go to you.
Yeah, I was waiting patiently. I just want to start with a comment, then I'll finish with a question, but in listening to the conversation that was at hand here, I almost lost my train of thought, and I'm pretty sure I have to that anyway. So let's move on to my question. My question is, what matrix was used to put the starting value to the home that's recently been posted on MCA's website that's for sale in the village of Ganadagal, starting it out at $100,000? There's a lot of young families in this community that are struggling once again to find housing. That's another major issue in our community, let alone find decent rentals. And there's the house for sale starting at $100,000. So I would like next month, or even before that, if somebody could answer why that starting point was so high at $100,000. And I understand there's a land dispute connected to that property also for the land itself. So if somebody could shed some light, because there's a deadline for bids to be sent in. And if I'm going to use this as a hypothetical, if I were to win that bid and there was a land dispute connected to it, how fair is that to me? And who's going to reimburse me all my monies if I spend anything and I was a successful bidder?
Yeah, so I'll speak in general terms. I don't want to speak about the specific situation, but what I can tell you that is when when individuals borrow money from the Bank of Montreal, the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne guarantees the loan. And in one of the conditions to borrow money from the Bank of Montreal is you have to sign your certificate of possession to the Mohawk Council in exchange for them to guarantee the loan. If in the case of default, the Mohawk Council will work to find a way to resolve the default. If not, then the Mohawk Council will take possession of homes that were not paid But what happens is the Mohawk Council is then responsible for that amount that's owed to the bank. So if you have a loan for $200,000 for your home and you default on it, the Mohawk Council is going to pay $200,000. Now, the money that the Mohawk Council has is your money as a community. Now, if that home is only worth $100,000 or, $10, the Mohawk Council is still out $200,000. Now, through process, it says that we will evaluate the home and then determine the evaluation and may sell for that price. In some situations, we may determine that we're trying to get close to what we had to pay for it because we want to be able to recover some, if not all of the money in those situations. So that's all I can say in that case. The number that you see is less than what the Mohawk Council had to pay. So at the end of the day, we've paid more, we'll sell it for less, and the community will, or the Mohawk Council will pay that difference. Because the amount that we paid, if we were to ask for that, you think you fell off your chair now, you'll fall off it even harder. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense, but you guys, I guess, got to do what you got to do in your processes with the bank. But in trying to get a community member to purchase that at that price, is there a land dispute connected to the land itself, or does MCA outright take possession and own the land based on the bank loan and the guarantee there of if they default, then use take possession of everything?
So before a guarantee is given, the certificates of possession have to be in the Mohawk Council's name. And people can dispute that they may have claims to it, but the certificate of possession has to be signed into the Mohawk Council's name.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I forgot my comment, but it was connected to some of the comments that the previous speaker was speaking to. But I may come up with it before everyone closes tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right. Are there any other questions, comments on the Zoom? I do want to make a note again, and I did do this at the beginning of the meeting. My apologies for waiting a little bit longer. Chief Julie Phillips Jacobs and Chief Joanne Swamp are on the Zoom system here. So they are part of the meeting. Again, we're running a hybrid. We have a number of people on the Zoom platform and joining us in this meeting. Okay. Any other items that you wish to address this evening?
I have one last comment, please.
Well, I'm going to go to one of our community members, then we'll come to yourself, and then I have another one. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, is it on?
Yep.
The comment is just the, in relation to the roads that we've been discussing tonight. And I know it's the end of the fiscal year for 2021-22, we're going into 22-23. So it is March, we're almost at the end next week. So with the new fiscal year, just wondering, Vince, has there been in the new, like everything had to, I'm sure the projects are all set for the new fiscal year. So is any roads projects going to be coming up because of within the new fiscal year?
Yes, for that question, Way LaFrance Memorial Road is on schedule for a priority, and we're going into full reconstruction along with looking at the reconstruction of those two bridges too. They're a wooden plank right now, and they're deteriorating, we know that, but every report we get, they're still solid, and they still can handle the weight restrictions. Well, we're moving forward to that. Just last early midwinter, we had a real good meeting, and they asked us for additional information on that roadway. And before that even happened, we were approved for a consultant and design phase of that roadway, so that money for reconstruction should be soon following that. So we're hoping to break ground this spring on it, but it's not confirmed yet, but we have, it looks good. It looks good, that's all I can say.
So is that gonna be from River Road right to Chapman Road?
No, it's gonna go, it's just the way La France Memorial from River Road to, what's that? Dump road around there. It's got kilometers on it, and there's even a section of Whoville being developed too.
So isn't Way La France from,
Yeah, it's all the way down to
It is the whole of Wade La France.
Yeah, you're right.
From River Road.
You're asking the island guy about this line.
What he said.
I even know the island road, so come on, Vince.
No, you're correct. I was looking at where Toby wrong with it. That's the beginning of chapter. Yeah, you're right. You're correct.
He's on the side. Chapman Road is already Chapman Road.
Yeah.
Any construction on Cornwall Island, like for roads?
As far as right now, we have Harbor Road on schedule for priority, and we're looking at that. That's I think it's a Class D estimate right now, but we're moving forward to a Class A estimate, so we can develop there too in the near future.
So like in every fiscal year, like you just said, Way La France Road's priority, Cornwall Island, it would be Harbor Road. What about Onondaga? Is there any priority
Onondaga,
there?
there's two roads in development right now. There's Park Street and Hilltop Drive. Hilltop Drive will be breaking ground this spring, and it's even more intense than the other one. It's going to take more. It's a higher priced roadway to do. We're trying to push for sidewalks in Onondaga for the safety of the people utilizing it, walking it, but it just there's not enough room there. So we're going back to where it is, curb to curb, just replacing it. Along with, we have to watch out because now the water lines are there, wastewater's there, and also the fiber optics now is coming into play on that.
So in the following year, like this year's gonna be done like 2022, 23. So the following year, could you look at other areas in the roadway to be fixed, like Mr. Johnson said, like.
Yeah, we do have a priority list,
Oh, you
and
have
we're following that right now. We shared it in past meetings. We have it out there, but we couldn't disclose the cost estimate of those roadways until we get the because you know what I mean. We don't want to divulge confidential information on the cost, because we want to give the bidding process a fair go, so that way we get it.
Oh, I'm not looking at cost estimate, I'm wondering.
No, there is a
prioritize.
priority list. There is a priority list.
Okay,
It's got about maybe a dozen roads on it.
Okay,
It's out there. It's pretty
thank you.
pretty big. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just although you didn't all entirely touch on it, but annually, the fiscal year, there is not enough money in the budget to do major capital projects. So there's probably about maybe I'm ballparking, it's at least under $1 million to do regular road projects. The Wade La France is a several year planning, but also was what we call a capital submission to the federal government to receive that money. What we get starting on April 1st will not build a Wade La France. It has to be, it's a special submission that we make. It may occur over a couple of years, but it's not our regular funded. So road projects will work like that instead of saying, okay, we can start a major project on April 1. There's just not enough money on April 1 of regular money. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But when they, just to add to that, when they approve us monies for the design phase and for full reconstruction design, that's momentum. And that's the reconstruction dollars is right behind it. So we're patiently waiting, but COVID, I guess, threw a boomerang and everything we're doing. So we're hoping that momentum is gathered back, and so we can move forward and get productivity going again. That's our goal.
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I need you to get the mic though.
My other question is this, and I know it's global, worldwide, and like before the war hit, like last year, you were given this amount of money. Now the war's hit, and the price of everything is now creeping up. So if it crept up, let's say, hypothetically, say everything crept up 5%, could be higher or not, but we were given this amount of money for this year.
Yeah.
But everything else is 5%, but will we get 5% if everything else, will the government, like, I know we won't get the 5%, but will they at least give us some surplus, or if you apply for, or I don't know.
Mhm.
A subsidy, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a subsidy of some sort. Only because like when you talk about your elders, you talk about your children, your most vulnerable. And if we do go to war, what will happen? Like really, you gotta be realistic. Like, is it gonna be, are we gonna be sitting here arguing about roads? Are we gonna sit here arguing about numbers? Or are we gonna be sitting here strategically thinking about how to survive?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, it's a survival of the fittest. So are we gonna looking at community gardens? Are we gonna looking at whatever it may take to bring back what our ancestors, how they lived? And you're looking at like fossil fuels. Like we all know that they don't want no more diesel, no more fuel oil, no more gas. So what about the future? Like, we can't, I don't know, maybe you can't look at today, but you gotta look at tomorrow. Because today is the day, it's already gone, but tomorrow's not here yet. So we have to prepare for tomorrow because we can't go back to yesterday. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
So is like, I guess, I know you've got a lot on your plate. God love you all for being grateful, for taking the stand to sit in that position. Like, thank you very much for what you guys have done for us. But I just kind of like want to know, like, how are we going to get prepared as a community? Otherwise, we'll all be sitting here fighting and yelling and screaming and crying. I got a starving baby. I got a starving mom. I'm starving. Haven't eaten in 5 days. Look at me. My spine is touching. Stomach's touching my spine. You know. But in the end, like, how do we prepare as a people?
Yeah. So just on the question about kind of the inflation of the cost of living, some of our funding agreements have CPIs, consumer price indexes, that will bump up annually. I mean, of course, you know, I mean, a 10% inflation likely would have to be sustained for a couple of years before it actually reflect in the funding. There could be immediate injections from the federal government in certain areas, perhaps social areas that, you know, support the people that are already vulnerable. But you know, if the costs continue to sustain, there's absolutely some hard decisions have to be made, right? Because it's just not sustainable to have a cost of doing business at the levels unless the government, you know, injects certain monies to sustain it. Now, the gas prices, I mean, I recall, you know, several years ago, there was a huge spike and we did receive some monies to help with capital projects and specifically for that. But again, that's only one part. One of the things that I've said to council, and this is not all, you know, not new to them, but absolutely on your second point is our sustainability as a community, right? I mean, we live in a scary time right now. There is a war happening. It's a cusp of the Third World War. Not that long ago, Vancouver, which is the largest port of entry, got flushed out. And at that time, if that sustained, you know, all of those shipping containers that support everything we buy at Walmart and, you know, every other store, either is not going to be there or will be inflated, right? So the environment we live in, from, you know, floods to everything, has changed immensely too. And I have said to council that how do we sustain ourselves? You know, and, you know, let's hope we don't get to the point where it doesn't matter how much money we have because it's not going to make a difference, right? Let's hope that, you know, that we don't get to that point, but we need to start thinking like that. The prices of land in the Dundee area are nothing close to what they are in Eastern Ontario. And I think that, you know, the land expansion possibilities we have is some real things that we have to put some real concentration into so that we can have a way to sustain ourselves, from agriculture to, you know, to gardening, what have you. I mean, small gardens, yes, the community gardens that we gave out, you know, people laughed at them, but they were a bit more of something to do. but those will not support a family for very long, more than a couple of weeks, right? We need massive places to be able to support ourselves. And this is something that I have said a couple times to council that, I want us to start giving that serious consideration and moving towards that so that we at least have some comfort should things not become available or things continue to get worse. Right. So I appreciate you raising that. And believe me, it is something we're really thinking about. We need to really move in that direction.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. We'll go back over to here. The one online has now took back her hand, so.
I guess maybe just a recommendation. When chiefs get phone calls from community members, can you please call us back? Please, I've called. I've left texts. Nobody responded. The only one that responded here. I know people say I have tough questions that I always ask. Look up the answer that I'm looking for. All I ask. I don't fucking know everything. Oh, man, do you want to know what the audit report is about?
Yeah. Somebody have a response? So we don't have a date set yet for it. There are two presentations that we will need to do. One is the budget will need to be presented to the community, and two is the audit. The audit is available now, though it is online, but we haven't done a presentation to it. Okay, I do want to, before we move on, just acknowledge that Ann Seymour is joining us here today. Ann has been appointed our executive director for the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. So my apologies, Ann, for not doing it sooner. I know the best for last. So thank you for joining us this evening. Was there anything else? I do have a hand online. Yeah, we'll go ahead, Teresa, and then we'll go online.
This was just in regards to the announcement that came out this afternoon regarding MCA mask mandate. It says mask mandate will not apply to businesses or organizations outside of MCA. Does that apply to MCA licensed businesses?
No. Facilities, you have
Okay,
to.
so it doesn't apply to the dispensaries that are licensed by MCA?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
So the masks will need to be continued to be worn unless sitting down. I notice I'm the only one not having one. Believe me, I'm not an anti-masker. When you enter an MCA facility, you have to be wearing a mask, whether it be the recreation center, workplace. For now, it's set to the end of April. We'll continue to monitor it. But the businesses under our jurisdiction, no. Ultimately, I mean, there's a lot of discussion around this stuff. Ultimately, it's up to the employer. If they want their employees to wear it, then that's in their purview. Right? So, thank you. We'll go to the question online. Go ahead, Toby.
Yeah, good evening. So I just wanted to thank all the chiefs who submitted their monthly reports. I did quickly go through them earlier. I do just kind of want to note that I noticed they are still very heavy on MCA administration. This was something I raised a few meetings ago. There is a lot of movement going on externally to MCA in Akwesasne. I was on a COVID call today and we spent a half hour talking about the policing framework and how that's going to impact First Nations and policing agreements. So I would just like to, again, strongly encourage and voice my support for our chiefs to kind of look at those external, I hate to say attacks, but that's how I feel lately, from the external governments as they try to ram their legislation and various policies and frameworks down our throat. They are taking advantage of the fact that a lot of our communities, especially in Ontario, are still, very heavily impacted by COVID, still a few in lockdown, well, more than a few, and still a few very much in outbreak status. So it's, just my observations that I think they're taking advantage of that. And I would really like for, my council to be on the offensive and to be ready for these kind of things as they come down, because I know our stance has always been that we, kind of govern ourselves and don't let Canada do that. So with the upcoming legislations in policing and health, and I've heard a few things around languages, I just really would like to either see some kind of plan or at least strategic outline as to how you guys intend to deal with that, or more participation, reporting on what Akwesasne stances are on those legislations and things. Some are good for us, which I highly doubt, but maybe there are. I haven't read all of them. It's just, I would like a little bit more, I guess, involvement in that, because I do think that there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming down the pipes, and it's going to happen very quickly, and we might get run over by it. That's just my kind of suggestion, thoughts, recommendation, whatever you want to call it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. I mean, I will say that, the last general election was 9 months. It took several months to do an orientation for council online. I mean, generally what has happened in the past also would be that orientation would happen in a boardroom over a course of a week. You get people come in, do presentations, because, the members coming in have varying experiences within or outside of the MCA. So it's to ensure that everybody has the same. COVID has changed the lives of us in so many ways, personally, within the organization, in how we do business, adapting to online. So, I mean, it has slowed things, but we are in a process of strategic planning right now, which is, I believe, an important instrument that will help us pare down what our priorities are as a council. I know some of what you have raised is external threats, which is absolutely critical and important that we keep on top of those, because those threats will translate into either challenges or diminishment of rights within the community, which is absolutely a function of council. So thank you for continuing to remind us of that. It is something that, we are very conscious of and want to focus our energy as an elected council externally, while, making sure that the resources are there for us internally. There is a question here that I know that Cheryl has posted on the chat. I will just read it. I think this is what she wanted to raise earlier. She did ask, why are they higher in Quebec, the land costs? I believe I said the costs in Quebec are much lower, which creates opportunity, specifically in the Dundee area, versus if we were to buy tracts of land in the Cornwall area. She says, can we go back to each chief doing monthly updates at the general meeting? So another comment on some of the reportings that member of council do. So I want to thank you for your comments on that and the other comments about the reporting of the general meetings. I'm going to make a last call for anything else that any individuals like to raise this evening. Okay. All right. Well, so as a matter of business, I'm just going to move to the reading of the resolution for the record to accept and approve the attached general meeting minutes dated February 24th, 2022. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Vanessa, second by Edward. Discussion on the resolution. Question has been called on the resolution. All in favor of the resolution? Right, none against. The resolution is carried. So again, this is our first in-person hybrid general meeting. I appreciate all of the patience of you as we try to navigate the technical side of making sure that people online are able to participate in tonight's conversation, as well that everybody here is able to hear them. We will continue to do the general meeting as provided that the pandemic situation continues to remain as it is now. We will continue to do the general meeting in person with the hybrid as well. The district meetings are now occurring in person as well. They are not on Zoom at this time. So the district meetings are in person only. The general meeting is hybrid. So we are scheduled to have our next general meeting on April 28th in a district of Ganadago. Yes, I see my staff nodding yes in Ganadago. So that is it for this evening. I want to thank all of you for joining us, and thank you to our staff for putting all of this together for us as well and navigating all of the challenges around the technology. If I could have a motion to adjourn, moved by Edward, second by Vanessa. All right. Thank you very much to all of you. Have a great evening, and we'll see you in a month. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you to those of you who are online.
Good night. Yongoa.